Welcome to ES Ascension News, Krystal Kaleidoscope. And as we resume our monthly podcast for June 2014 and ongoing, dear Ascending Family, returning from a deeply transformative Planetary Emancipation Gridwork project from a distant country, we have been burning the midnight oil to meet the requirements of an extreme effort being made now. No matter where we are at our human or spiritual development, many feel the weight of the changes and the intense pressure building in the environment. When there is applied pressure from the field, there is greater chaos, and the environment has been filled with these chaotic forces. The effort made now is in preparation for yet another new level of color frequency spectrum being projected as radiant light holograms into the planetary core manifestation architecture. A crystal kaleidoscope of plasmic light mirrored architecture is emerging into physical quantification of color that projects entirely new spectrums of light, frequency, and time code. What this means is that the particle wave manifestation of new color spectrums on planet is being observed, as well as the source code of its emanation generating from the crystal kaleidoscope from the aurora time continuum. These reflective bands of coded plasmic light are being woven into sequential circuits into certain geographic areas of our planet. One purpose is to build multiple access points in our Earth timelines that may potentially resonate in reflectional symmetry with the upcoming convergence which is happening in the trans-time continuum. The crystal kaleidoscope is being described as such because this architecture operates similarly as to what we can understand from our human perspective as when looking into a kaleidoscope. A kaleidoscope operates on the principles of multiple reflections, where several mirrors are placed at an angle of degree to one another. Typically, there are 3 rectangular mirrors set at 60 degrees to each other so that they form an equilateral triangle. The 60-degree angle creates several duplicate images of the objects, 5 at 60 degrees and 2 at 90 degrees. As the tube is rotated, the tumbling of the colored objects presents varying colors and configurations in a beautiful symmetrical pattern created by the reflections in the kaleidoscope. The crystal kaleidoscope functions in the same way as the more recent architecture that has been placed on our planet since the end of 2012. The Crystal Cathedral, Crystal Spires, the City Foursquare, all operate in mirrored reflection symmetry. What this means is that a figure which does not change its core energetic form and is capable to hold integrity within itself upon undergoing a reflection with the crystal kaleidoscope has mirrored reflectional symmetry. Additionally, the mirrored reflection symmetry adjusts any rotational axis of symmetry into the core DNA template of the being. This means if the reflectional symmetry exists with Krystal Star, that part of the reflection will expand its symmetry pattern throughout its entire DNA, unwinding in any existing timelines in the holographic dimensions. This is a reclamation of all crystal identities on Earth to be returned for rehabilitation to the Aurora founder dimensions in the trans-time continuum. This does not mean that we drop the body. What it means is that we are connecting to the founder's crystal consciousness identities throughout the trans-time continuum in order to make the loadout of Earth humans to the Aurora time continuum in the future. This is the God Sovereign Free Ascension timeline hosted by the Krystal Star. What this also means is that if there is no mirrored symmetry present in the reflection of that figure or form to the Aurora colors, that being will not perceive the Krystal Kaleidoscope design, nor the source field of its actual identity, or any of the Krystal Star creations. This means it is essentially invisible to them because it simply does not exist in their lower dimensional perception of reality. This will eventually present the choice between eviction with the Vandal Fallen negative alien agenda groups, or annihilation of their species memory in certain timelines, or genetic rehabilitation, which is monitored under Krystal Star host on another globe chain. Time vectors hold fire codes. The upcoming Gemini influence and other cosmological arrangements around this June's summer solstice is projecting a deep process of saturation of primary aurora color coding through the architecture of the Krystal Kaleidoscope. The aurora rays are plasma wave patterns, building layers of kaleidoscopic color-coded shields which geometrically intersect with the aurora time continuum. The aurora time continuum is accessed within multiple time vectors located in the trans-time fields. Time vectors are time codes, which also relate to fire codes or fire letters, which are directly a part of activating planetary DNA and human DNA. Through the activation of fire codes in DNA, one shifts timelines. One can bypass timelines. One can eliminate destructive timelines, and one may remember or view cellular memories in other timelines. When one is observing cellular memories from another timeline, it allows participation with the choices that have been made that have impacted the past, present, or future through changing or clearing those memories that were made in those timelines. This is referred to as rehabilitation of the timeline, which is made through the repair of genetic damage that was caused by the time vector code that holds the historical record of those accumulated cellular memories throughout the timelines. Color correction equals changes in cellular memories. To be permeated with the omniversal primary ray colors of our founder's original blueprint being holographically projected from the Krystal Kaleidoscope from the Aurora time continuum is to say that many of us are undergoing a massive color correction to all of our ray bodies. Also, the ray attributes and aspects of color waves that have resulted from previous distortions in our manifested creations throughout the timelines are also in a process of color correction. Color correction and frequency saturation changes cellular memories and shifts timelines because it simultaneously shifts causal events that led into distortions or genetic damage that has been made to our consciousness bodies. This process of aurora color wave saturation brings with it our original ray bodies that design our consciousness blueprint, the colors of which our many auric layers were formed. These are ray attributes of our higher identity cellular memories, which penetrate the subatomic layers of our energetic blueprint in this now self or current identity. Unstable forces and extreme polarities that are buried within our subatomic layers are surfacing now, similar to the smelting process in metallurgy. Alchemical processes are applied sequentially to decompose the carbon slag, the miasmatic debris layers, in order to extract the purity of our true essence, the gold, from the body. The tempering of our personal metal extracts the pure elemental substances that forge the crystal diamond heart to birth within our golden body. Of the 7 metals known in antiquity, only gold occurs regularly in its native form in the natural environment. This is because our physical matter is made from the base chemical elements of gold, and so is our planet. It is strange to think that gold coins became the representation of the external value of ourselves, because when the aliens came to this planet, they coveted that gold. Therefore, they coveted humans. Shifting subatomic layers. The current evolutionary theme, ending with the recent Taurian transformation, is the process of spiritual integration of the reassembled parts the inner spirit has newly created in the energetic layers of the body consciousness. For many people, this time requires polarity integration between the newly reassembled parts of these required patterns being synthesized into one's consciousness. Although many people on Earth cannot sense the physical perception of these new color frequency spectrums, the Krystal Kaleidoscope are color rays that deeply penetrate cellular bodies and stimulate the cells. The deep cellular change to our subatomic layers has polarizing impacts to our sense of identity, which physically manifest in our life experiences. This is a great inner purge occurring. All the hidden demons, devils, egos, aliens, and their foreign substances and machinery in previous timelines are being ramped up to the surface. Most people in the masses are very confused by what they are looking at, and if this threatens their belief system, they tend to use an ego defense mechanism such as repression, suppression, or projection in order to cope with reality. This can stimulate the person's hidden distortions to explode, or it can stimulate the person's purity from their inner spirit to congeal within their body. One may feel inner peace and comfort, or feel explosive and tumultuous, riding the roller coaster of both experiences until energetic synthesis of the mind, body, and spirit is complete. This is a part of the magnum opus of spiritual alchemy. As we persevere, the strength of our inner spirit is the fortitude and strength of our character to cope with the challenges that we face in humility, in a flexible and resilient way. Our ego does not have the strength to cope with extreme pressures. It is our inner spirit that always prevails to strengthen our character beyond our wildest imagining. The Spirit knows if you give up, you will have to do it again in some other form or some other way. Being on earth during the ascension cycle can be a tough commitment. Ultimately, the spirit awakening inside each person must choose their personal attribute and beliefs as their way of being in this world, no matter what the external people, places, and things are doing. This is making the choice of spiritual energetic authority every day, whether one believes this is happening or not. The choice is made in the measurable form of what one values and gives power to in their world. The belief systems based on deception and ego defense mechanisms are breaking apart, and that dismantling results in many people suffering. Mental pain is created from the inner confusion of being shown that what we actually thought was truth is not. It is later revealed to be a great deception. Through our ego's dark ignorance, we suffer from not understanding the reasons why we feel we have been deceived and therefore betrayed. When humans hurt from constant pain of the deception-betrayal cycle, they tend to blame something or someone on the external for the deep pain that they feel. The more attached we are to the material world, the more we think that we were in full control of our lives, the worse we suffer when we approach the spiritual phases of ego defense dismantling. The current convergence into trans-time, a sequential result of the bifurcation in time, amplifies lower polarity collective thought forms and dark energies for those human beings that hold more percentage of that density in their body. Generally, this is stemming from technological mind control and the genetic damage from alien machinery and alien hybridization of these groups of humans that are totally unaware due to the hidden negative alien agenda. The bioneurological genetic damage is a mental sickness that is spiritually abusive and destructive to the self and others with intention to harm. Studying archontic deception or AD methods. As the descending matrices amplify in certain areas on planet, and those groups of people subscribe to its forms of behavioral hatred, such as killing, they are mercilessly used by forces that they do not understand. Many humans of all age groups that hold high percentage of darkness are taken over by these feral forces by acting out the negative alien agenda, archontic methods of the consciousness war against humanity. By studying the profile of Orion groups and the negative alien factions, one can easily chart this collective anti-human behavior and its mind control playing out in the unconscious human masses. One archontic deception strategy is to program trauma and death patterning into children as young as possible. Children become unresponsive to death and killing, as if it's of no consequence or importance. This is a biological warfare strategy to mind control a race of people into being automatons and psychopaths. Recently, in the collective, we can see an increase of teenagers and young adults being manipulated into committing mass murders of their own family members or schoolmates. These are levels of possession, such as thought form possession and entity possession, that use archontic mind control thoughts to manipulate what that person perceives as an external reality. Once one has context for the archontic deception strategy, its methods and behaviors, it is a survival tool to refocus, clear, and switch these behaviors off when you are exposed to extreme stress and chaos. To improve peace in a largely dysfunctional world, we require attitudinal behavior guidelines to overcome the insanity of the archontic deception and their anti-life forces. All decisions one is able to make from an informed position by identifying archontic behaviors as they happen and refusing them from controlling your behavior will increase personal discernment and energetic resonance of peace in one's life. The only thing any person can change is themselves through their heart responses and behaviors. The change starts within. These negative alien factions are weary and desperate of what they can measure as a quantic energy yield that is changing hands out of their control. Yet, many are still not aware of the current implications. Through trans-time convergence, the complete erasure of the Orion invasion timelines on Earth is the potential that the Krystal Kaleidoscope architecture holds inherently in its mirrored reflection symmetry. Trans-time continuum convergence. As we move into the trans-time continuum cycle, the potential to access all 12 planetary time cycles through each of the 12 previous astrological precessions is occurring. This potential opened from the combination of the universal galactic core aligned with multiple omniversal cores in the ascension neutron window. The universal founder's threefold flame sparked itself into the matter fields of Earth. The 4 pillars of man activated its tetrahedron structure into 12 pillars of the guardians through the inner worlds. The guardian of the 12 pillars anchored into all 3 parallel universes in the triune, and the 12 pillars tetrahedron in the triune formed the geometric tesseract of the cosmic cube matrix of 144,000, which is the architecture built from the schematic which has been held on the Earth by the Oraphim. The third-dimensional Earth has contact with Aurora Time Continuum and the God Sovereign Free Ascension timelines. Earth has opening in trans-time to access omniversal founder codes that bond the entire personal Christ identities to the founder's DNA. Earth has potential in trans-time to access time vectors that replace fire codes that shift timelines that erupted from the Orion invasion causal event of the negative alien agenda over 208,000 years ago. Additionally, the trans-time continuum access is made possible from massive sound pillars that have been secured on planet and are able to reinforce various levels of the crystal star architecture in the 4 main areas of Easter Island, Jerusalem, Norway, and Peru. Secondary and tertiary architectural fortifications are being held in small planetary bodies that lay in the periphery of the Ring of Fire in the basin of the Pacific Ocean. These Aurora rehabilitated pillars, when activated into their tetrahedron structure, which is 4 triangular faces, are also called the 12 guardians of the tribal shield, which are created from the consciousness network referred to as the 4 pillars of man. Ultimately, the tetrahedron structure forms the base of the geometric tesseract, which is the cosmic cube matrix of God's 144,000, which is the architecture held by the Oraphim for City Foursquare. The founder, guardian, Oraphim are the keepers and protectors of City Foursquare schematic in its geometric tesseract design, which is the cosmic cube matrix. These are the omniversal time code keepers that we are capable to interact and communicate with in this dimension through the Earth timelines during the trans-time continuum opening. The trans-time continuum cycle reaches its peak in mid-July, within another 6-year cycle of Guardian projects established to override negative alien architecture that is pushing future timeline events into the Alpha Omega or the Armageddon 9/11 agenda. 6 years ago, the Guardian groups were working in the preliminary layers of timelines in the 4 planetary rounds that were infected with alien machinery in order to meet this current window of opportunity in trans-time convergence. Reviewing this timeline in 2008 will give clues to current revelations happening now as we move deeper into the crystal architecture and timeline repair. Quoted from the August 2008 newsletter, Illusions Shattered. There are 4 evolutionary rounds of 3 planetary cycles totaling 12-dimensional timelines that comprise the particle and antiparticle universe. The ascension cycle is about accelerating through a gradual particle-antiparticle merge of these 12 timelines. The 4 rounds within each age of the 12-dimensional time cycles are approximately 26,000-year cycles. These rounds, or astrological ages, are also known as the precession of the equinoxes, which refer to the precession of Earth's axis of rotation with respect to inertial space. Within each cycle, there are more nested cycles. Currently, we are in a multiple cycle convergence, which creates windows of opportunity for access into other trans-time dimensions. Now it is possible that we meet the co-resonant vibrational points in the timeline that cross into other timelines beyond when the last universal ascension cycle transpired over 208,000 years ago. This co-resonant vibrational access point in the trans-time continuum is converging with the triune of universal cycles beyond 312,000 years ago. There are 3 parallel universes which intersect on a triune scale, which impact all of the universal timelines and evolutionary rounds. Beyond the combined meeting point of the triune of time vectors from 208,000 years ago, the DNA template and the founder's 48-strand shield are accessible through the trans-time continuum by Orifeme levels in this current identity station on Earth. Why is this important for humanity? This timeline is before the Orion invasion, which resulted in many subsequent timelines of cataclysm, which further required wormhole caps and frequency fences related to the negative alien agenda intruder invasion timeline events, and other direct causal events relating to alien hybridization, both from agreed-upon hybridization contracts and those created from forced alien abduction. Accessing this timeline brings a whole new level of finding, accessing, and downloading the original angelic human race cellular memories that belong to the entire personal Christos gestalt of consciousness, that is the Christ consciousness. These are huge amounts of Christ consciousness identities that are located throughout many different timelines in the triune of universal scale simultaneously. Restoring the original cellular memories of the personal Christ consciousness template for every human being that is incarnated in this now timeline is made possible through a vibrational access point in this trans-time continuum convergence. The unknown factor is where the embodiment will take place at the group soul levels. However, what this means is that many humans in the current process of soul death or fragmentation will have another chance at crystal rehabilitation beyond the astral plane. The astral plane is in the process of dying because it has to from what has occurred there. This trans-time opening is converging with Orifeme founder consciousness from the higher spectra God worlds to collaborate in building crystal architecture shields that bond the entire personal Christ identities to the founder's DNA. In the newsletter, we have provided a chart of the simultaneous planetary time cycles that are related to each of the 12 astrological precessions. The triune scale of particle-based time. The first section of the triune is the particle universal scale of time. This is the external reality we experience in physical matter on third-dimensional Earth, including the nature of timelines that exist at the particle universe level. We can call that the particle timelines. Right now, we can access up to the 12th astrological precession, which includes 288 organic timelines. The second section of the triune is the antiparticle universal scale of time. This is the parallel universe which contains an antiparticle mirror, or double of our particle universe. The parallel or antiparticle Earth holds the exact mirror opposite to the time cycles that we have on particle Earth. We can call that the antiparticle timelines, or parallel universe timelines. Right now, we can access up to the 12th astrological precession in the antiparticle timelines, which includes another 288 organic timelines, which total 576 timelines. The third section of the triune is the universal inner worlds scale of time, which is the in-between spaces. This is the domain of the inner worlds, which intersect between the particle universe and the antiparticle universe. The universal inner worlds scale of time holds both the architecture of the particle timelines and antiparticle timelines. This means both combined timelines and their cellular memories can be accessed from the inner worlds, such as in the inner Earth domains. Right now, we can access up to the 12th astrological precession in the inner worlds timelines, which includes another 288 possible organic timelines, totaling 864 timelines, and all of those cellular memories. At certain points in the time cycle, when merges occur, new architecture can be created which impacts the particle and antiparticle time field. This time is now. The reason that this is very important is that this convergence is accessible in all triunes simultaneously that impacted the particle timelines on Earth, and it goes beyond the last universal ascension cycle over 208,000 years ago, where meeting points occur. These meeting points across parallel universes of timelines are called trans-time continuums to describe timelines that merge together from multiple points in time. Each section of the triune of universes intersects at a 45-degree angle of the respective particle spin, which moves diagonally. This usually creates a buffer zone between them, which keeps these spaces and access into time closed off. However, that buffer is dissolving, and during this phase of trans-time convergence and the triune of universes timelines are merging, this creates entry points at several layers of the trans-time field or dimensional planes which can be intersected to access timelines and collect all cellular memories and clear cellular memories that impact genetic record. As we clear these damaging memories related to the original timeline of Orion invasion and alien hybridization memories, we can pick up new time codes and pick up founder DNA coding for DNA fire letters. This is a phenomena that only occurs during certain phases of timelines within the ascension cycle. For those of us as energy grid workers, this merge provides an advantage to create some vast changes and corrections in the energy architecture which impact past and future timelines. This is a window of opportunity. In the creational structure of the harmonic universes, there are 2 timelines per dimensional octave, which equal 24 simultaneous timelines in each astrological precession. So within our harmonic universe of the 3rd dimensional Earth, within the 3 dimensions, we have 6 timelines. When we energetically evolve and move up an octave, we are initiated into higher frequencies. We are exposed to more dimensional octaves. Therefore, we are exposed to more potential timelines. Within these dimensions of future timelines are stations of identity, commonly called soul, oversoul, higher self, or monad, which comprise body parts or whole spiritual bodies of our forgotten selves. These are spiritual energetic bodies that hold our consciousness, intelligence matrices, our mind matrices that make up our spiritual identity, and of which we are designed to reclaim during these timeline collapses that are transpiring now during the ascension cycle. This is why those on the ascension path continually experience their energetic healing by meeting the cellular memories and the events that happened in the multiple timelines. We have to move through the series of timelines in each dimensional octave and reclaim our identity while recoding and changing the obsolete or false reality, such as alien machinery and their harassment, from interfering with our continued spiritual and consciousness growth. Unwanted visitors. As this area of the timelines are opening for access, some of us may sense unwanted visitors or displaced entities. Most of the theme will be around memories involving alien wars, militarized invasion, alien hybridization and forced breeding, consciousness memory erasure, and the various types of enslavement technologies. In some areas of the time field, there are aspects of our higher identity that may have had our consciousness memories drugged, taken, erased, and attempts made to delete the file where the memory was stored. These are forms of bioneurological control used to suppress, fragment, or wipe memories, which are a biowarfare strategy of the negative alien factions and their controlled human military in the future timelines. As we regain our consciousness, we regain memories from the past, present, and future, and that may bring access into other realms or awareness of higher identities. As an example, in the future timeline of your now self, you may have a timeline attached to your aura that opens memories that your future self is enslaved by the negative alien agenda on another planet. These are memories you are recovering now in the ascension cycle so that you can change that future timeline to the ascension timeline in order to be freed of alien enslavement or control in the future. We have the power to witness the memory, command our personal space, commit our authority to God's Spirit, and to remove contracts, remove agreements, or consent with any satanic, Luciferian, or alien force. The key is in compassionate witnessing of the events and the command of authority to change the timeline and the time vector to your Christos and God self. If we have been intentionally hybridized, we can petition the Aurora and Christ families and relay our interest in learning the law of one, and that we have made a decision to forego satanic and Luciferian belief systems on earth in order to rehabilitate our consciousness to learn how to become a Christic being. A Christic being is a sovereign being, freed from mind control and from other forms of spiritual control or imprisonment. However, a human being must make this spiritual commitment in total sincerity and make the required changes to stop satanic ego behavior and Luciferian manipulation of others in service to self. One must learn how to function in the law of one tenets and practice appropriate ethics to acquire spiritual virtues. The integrity of one's words, actions, and behaviors must be congruent within the self. There are no shortcuts. Gemini influences. As the galactic zodiac is working its alchemy upon our planet from the Gemini constellation transmissions, during these weeks it may surface that all hidden memories and buried issues relating to sex, gender, partners, and relationships. This goes deep into core wounding and may feel to hit below the belt. For those of us embroiled in scenarios of gender reconciliation, alchemical unions, or any kind of intimate bond relationship, all of these issues are up for grabs, and although it can be painful to address, this is the time to get some very deep work completed on sexual trauma, marriage trauma, and partner relationship trauma. Many times we have looked to others for our own validation that we are lovable and wanted, and believe that this was true love. Of course, all hidden motivations we may have for sexual attention, self-validation, or other forms of attention seeking in relationships must stop in its superficiality. Superficiality, being unwilling to look deeper at issues and red flags, promotes self-deception in our lives. Many times people keep their mind focused on minutia and petty crisis so they can avoid dealing with the real conflicts. This is why when we are being superficial or avoiding conflicts about our problems, things will explode. In the spontaneous change and explosion, we may feel a huge amount of pain, as that pain will push us hard to make different choices and to do some deeper emotional work in our life that expands our consciousness. Avoiding conflicts, accepting abuse, and attention seeking through relationships is not unconditional love. As we face conflicts, we must let go that which existed as an image or storyline we had previously clung to. That storyline does not exist anymore, and its illusion must be shattered. Only you can decide when you can let it go and be freed of painful attachments. Many of us are learning the art of letting go, and it's a big, painful pill to swallow. However, this time too will pass. Gemini constellation has been manipulated by controller forces to intensify the sexual misery program in order to destroy the concept of sacred marriage, hieros, and what the average human being could imagine as healthy sexual and intimate relationships between loving couples. One current propaganda as a mass marketing strategy is to sell heavily in the media the idea that any kind of marriage or relationship is outdated and it is impossible to be happy or fulfilled in a relationship. In the New Age commercial strategy, it's to market the astral version of free love in the polyamorous lifestyle. This is designed to destroy experiences of deep bonded intimacy and label marriages as purely business arrangements and utilitarian. There is so much distortion and painful confusion in our views of relationship, marriage, and mixed gender relationships. We are reviewing all of these things now and discovering new ways to be in honest and loving relationships. As an example, there was a male friend of mine who was on the consciousness path, and through a very advanced lens, he came through a massive realization that during all of these years that he had fantasies that were sexual in nature, these thoughts he had maintained certain images and were only contained in his head. He started to realize the whole bowl of astral energy he contributed to by being into pornography and holding sexual fantasies of women he didn't know. And literally, this is a new revelation for him, and he has traced it back to his father and to the men in his life. This has been a perfectly acceptable behavior that if you didn't act upon it, pornography was not a big deal. A guy could look, fantasize, and that was not contributing to anything negative. In his advancement, this is a complete revelation that pattern was operating in his subconscious, impacting his sexual relationships, and that had been a distorted thought pattern. It took him this long to see that this was a mental implant, a belief structure that he was contributing towards, of which he had no idea was creating schism in his relationships, pain in his female intimate situations. He had no idea he had that pattern until he looked at this particular mental implant honestly and removed it from controlling him into addictions. We are all responsible for our thoughts, emotions, and where we place our energy. This makes it clear that if we want to accept our sovereignty as free, multidimensional beings, we will have to accept this responsibility at these sexual layers, in relationships, as they are core parts of us. It is in these behaviors and addictions the controllers use to keep us sexually miserable and unconscious, wounded, or enslaved. So this time is about masculine and feminine reconciliation. There is a lot more of this coming up for review in the ways we relate, our intimacy, our sexuality. As the female God principle is becoming embodied on the planet as a prophet of the ascension cycle, the female is the main ascension forerunner at this time. For those reasons, respectful and honest dialogues need to be initiated and confronted between the male and female in a safe and calming environment. Please only take in what is useful for your spiritual growth and discard all the rest. Thank you for your courage and bravery to be a truth seeker. I am the cosmic sovereign law made manifest. I am God, sovereign and free. Until next, stay in the luminosity of your avatar, Christos Sophia heart path. Please be kind to yourself, and please be kind to each other. With a loving heart until next month, thank you.